Hey, good afternoon, Trondheim friends, and welcome to this week's edition of Patio Ponderings. Winter is here. It is gray and windy, and we have snow showers. Our beautiful extended fall has ended rather abruptly. And it's time to go into the holidays. Thanksgiving is next week. But on to what I've been thinking about this week. So this past Sunday in worship, we had this story from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 13, which we talked about as being the little apocalypse. It has a very similar feel to Revelation. If you want to think back to our series on Revelation this summer, it probably sounded very familiar. Lots of warnings from Jesus on this end that is coming, this end that we don't know when will be coming, but will be marked by all kinds of things: wars, natural disasters, earthquakes, etc. One of the things in particular that I've been thinking about is Jesus' warning against those that deceive. So here's the verses. Jesus said, "Watch out that no one deceives you. Many people will come in my name saying, 'I'm the one.' They will deceive many people." This feels really familiar to what I see happening in our culture right now. Not only are we very polarized politically, but with that and wrapped up in all of that, we have become polarized religiously. We have people on both ends of the spectrums insisting that they have the right beliefs about God and about Scripture, and that the other side better wake up because they're being deceived. Each side politically also insists that God and Scripture are aligned with them. And we've talked about that a little bit before too. Now, we're always going to have theological differences. We're always going to have different perspectives on who we understand God to be and how we interpret Scripture. That's normal and to be expected, and I think it can be really enriching and healthy. So when do those differences get us into that territory of deception that Jesus is warning about? That's my question this week. When is it that we go from disagreement to actually being in a totally wrong place? I think the key, or one of the keys, all these subjects are so complex and nuanced, but I think one of the keys is to be really grounded in Scripture. And not just in certain verses or passages, because I think that gets to be part of the problem, is we can pick out certain verses, certain passages to justify just about anything. What I mean is we need to be really grounded in Scripture and understanding the context in which we read stories, not just the context of history, but the context among Scripture as a whole. Because when we read through Scripture as a whole, right from the very beginning, we get to know God with certain characteristics. God has a personality in a way. God has a character to God that shows up in consistent ways throughout Scripture. And like I said, we can always pick parts that seem to go against that. But how do we come to understand the consistency of God's character? So a couple things with that. Are we looking at right beliefs about God? which none of us ever have full claim to? Or are we thinking about the right ways of living out our faith in God? Because those are different. I think Jesus, in particularly, was much more concerned with how we live out our faith in God, how we are treating our neighbor, right? And what does everything boil down to? Love. Love for God, love for neighbor. And that's the second litmus test. Is the position of leaders, organizations, institutions who convey a certain belief in and about God coming down on the side of love, inclusion, and compassion? Or are they leading us into territory in which hate is prevalent and intolerance and indifference? Finally, when we look through Scripture, one of those consistencies that we see about Jesus and one of those consistencies that we see in the concerns of God overall is this concern for those who are on the margins. When we read through the Gospels, Jesus always stands on the side of the oppressed, on the side of the poor, on the side of the hungry, on the side of the sick. And so if we see institutions, people, and structures lining up with the rich, with the government, with those in power, with those in wealth, we might need to be cautious. We might need to wonder if that is an area of deception. What do you think? It can get kind of tricky and it can get kind of hard to figure out just how to navigate this. What is normal difference and disagreement, and what becomes deception? What do we have to, when is it that we really have to heed this warning from Jesus to stay away, to rethink, to be cautious? As always, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Stay warm. We'll see you on Sunday. Bye.